I want to start with a quote that you wrote in my survey, and I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it might be a fun little entryway into this conversation, but you wrote, "Nothing is random."
Oof,
Tell me why that is a
dude.
life quote that you sort of live by.
I think because when I was younger, specifically like as an engineer, when I'd be working on a design or something and something didn't quite work, I wanted it to be random. I wanted it to be an outlier. I wanted it to not be a data point in a trend that I had to be concerned about later. And I think the thing that I've learned now with more years under my belt as a product developer is nothing's random and you can't take anything as random. Like if something sticks out, don't just write it off as like, oh, that's just a outlier. That's not going to happen again. Prove it. Show me that that's not going to happen again. And it was different. Like, when I was leading the engineering team at Uni, it was in a different role to be able to have my team come to me and be like, hey, this is the data, whatever. And I'd be like, oh, what's up with that? And be like, that's just whatever. I'm like, nope, that doesn't cut it, man. Like, prove to me that that's supposed to be like that. Prove to me why that happened. Tell me why that happened. And we had this saying like, no unknowns. We're not allowed to have any unknowns and know all your unknowns. So that was something that we really tried to instill in especially the younger engineers, just like, if something seems off, trust your gut and go and try to figure out why that happened. And so now I'm having to relearn those those lessons now, like with my own stuff.
Give me an example.
Well, the example with that's been really present recently with the bread mat was like there was always plans to improve the product, and when we were beta testing it and stuff, it was almost weird that nothing came up. Like you expect something to happen. The product's not ready, something needs improvement. And none of the beta testers had any feedback to change really anything about it. And so that should have been the first red flag. And then, as we started selling them and stuff and people started using them, I started getting, I don't know, maybe like one, two every month or two, somebody would say like, hey, the edge of my mat started to fray. Like, what's up with that? I'd be like, well, I don't know. Like the first couple ones that came in, I was like, it's random. Like, like I don't know. Like, must have been a bad batch. Let me go check with the manufacturer. Let me look at the ones I've got. I don't know why that's happening. And then like a couple more started coming in. And I think to date, we've maybe have had 20. Like it's not a lot, but it was always something like once I got past like the fourth or fifth, it was really like, Mike, you need to fix this. Like these aren't random things. You got to figure out why it's happening and fix it. And so we did. Like we made the changes we need to make. We've improved the product a few times now to kind of help with these little outliers. And it's really just like an effort to make them bulletproof. Like they were fine. The original ones were great. Like I still use my original ones, and I never ran into the issues people did. I'll tell you what caused it here in a second. Um, but yeah, it was just a good thing to remember of like these things aren't happening for no reason. There's a reason they're happening, and it's on me as the product developer to either find the reason and say that's okay. We know that 0.1% of these are going to fail, and that's okay. Or we say that's not okay. Let's go make it bulletproof. But I knew that as the company or as the product was going to grow with the bread mat, that as I went up that adoption curve, there were going to be people that wasn't acceptable anymore. It wasn't okay for them to behave in this way, especially if they were misusing them, which is what I had associated it in the beginning with like the initial users. Basically, it turns out there's a really popular Dutch oven on the market that is a little bit undersized, and it's raw cast iron. And so the mat was just rubbing up against that, and it was causing the edges to fray. It was either that or the person that baked the loaf baked it off center enough where the bread like overhung the loaf and it snagged the side of the edge of the mat and baked into the mat. it baked into the bread. So when they pulled their bread off, it pulled a piece off. Like I've replaced every single one that it's happened with. And the new mats, like among other improvements, have stuff like safeguards against that, just to make sure that they're more rigid and more rugged. Um, but yeah, that's where that comes from. That nothing is random. It's like you got to go chase it down. And if you find something in your product development that seems like you want it to be random, it's probably because you're not willing to take on the time to go figure out what's actually going on.